Hi, everybody. Dhaman Mehta here, and thank you for once again joining me on my journey as I go through my favorites list on fanfiction.net. Let's just dive into the stories I have for this video, starting with Telepathy by Twisted Fate Mark II. This is a Ruby fanfic where Jaune, when he awakens his aura with Pyrrha, also gets his semblance immediately, and his semblance is telepathy, of reading people's minds. And basically, it starts off kind of humorous and singing with everyone's like, oh, it's a bunch of teenage girls and everybody around him, so of course they're gonna be thinking about sex and perverted thoughts, and it stays that way for a bit. And then things just start getting really, really serious with bioterrorism involved and stuff, which is really jarring. Um, like I said, the beginning, the story feels like it's gonna stay pure comedy, and for the first few chapters it does, and then there's just a huge tonal shift where, John's sister wants to leave the White Fang. There's a lot of things going on with John's family here, he's part Faunus. And he has his sisters, once a member of the White Fang that wants to get out, and apparently when they do that, the teams go in and then they get dosed with literally a gas agent that turns them into a Faunus, and making Faunus an act of bioterrorism it's a choice that the author can make, but that is okay, and that really changes the tone. And after that, the comedy's basically non-existent or pushed into the corner when serious takes over. Like I said, there's also a lot of changes with John's backstory. Also, Weiss's dad. Granted, this was back in 2015, so this is still in the early stages of when Ruby was first coming out, I believe. So we didn't know much. So Weiss's dad here is a good guy. He's not a piece of shit. Instead, some other OC is who's taking the thing and everything. But all that is there, and the only thing that grabbed me, the story didn't really interest me and stuff. The only thing that sticks out in my mind is that freaking Faunus are you can get turned into a Faunus via experimentation and bioterrorism. That just is a kind of what the fuck and kind of thing. Aside from that, the telepathy makes John look more competent because he can he reads their minds, so he can see they're thinking of their next move, so I can block it and such. But and he actually notices Pyrrha and the other girls liking him, but the tone shift after that, and like I said, I can't keep harping on this enough, the bioterrorism turning you into Faunus thing is what the hell. And I just dropped the story about halfway, so it's gonna fall off my list. Number 2 is Paragon Interupt by Leon Cross. This is a Mass Effect crossover with Worm, where Shep basically just shows up at Taylor's school at the start of Worm, basically right before, I think a day or two before she goes out to fight Lung, in the first chapter. And they connect, hit it off, and then things happen after that. It's also a femshep that is after the Reaper War, so after Mass Effect 3, and then she gets de-aged to be a high schooler, and then is just sent and ends up in the Worm world. So that's the premise. And then, so with the writing style of this, I can completely understand why people get turned off, would dislike the story. Like I said, Shepard just appears on the roof one day, and Taylor just runs into her on the roof, meets up, and then they just immediately become friends. And Capes immediately know that they're kind of super powered and stuff and working together with no real explanation and connection. Before that, just instant connection, I guess, instant connectivity and stuff. And they're also constantly talking, they're just regurgitating psych textbooks at each other to explain and analyzing and perfectly psychoanalyzing everybody around them and such. And I totally get that. And the first 10 chapters are just both of those two power munchkining and like just looking at every power and just figuring out every single thing, like trying to make, you know, like figuring out what are the best people to make a relationship with to like take over the bay and stuff, and all that stuff put together in that thing. I can totally see why somebody would drop off. But at this, for me, like all the moments that are not that, like when the two are just acting like characters and hanging out, if you get past that first point of like, why is this Taylor, who should not be trusting anybody, just connecting with this random person, like if you step past that and you go to the actual relationship that builds between the two and the other characters that go on, like Amy and Lisa and everything, all of that feels really good and genuine. Like when they're not acting as expository devices, they have fun chemistry. They have good banter. Their relationships and friendships grow aside from that first starting point, feel very genuine. Like, so it's like after those first 10 chapters, that's when the butterflies start, you know, flapping their wings and things really start bringing a lot of changes, which are really interesting, like a big ass set piece fight with the Dragon Slayers. And, you know, while it was incomplete and never finished, I still think this was like really, really great, and the relationship bits that they create and the companionship bits that are there are all good, and the action in the latter half was still really enjoyable. So I'm keeping this on my list. Number 3 is Going Postal by ZScalantian. I guess. Sorry. This is a Final Fantasy VII time travel fic that has a lot bigger cast than most time travel fics. You know, normally with a time travel fic, when people write it in this, it's usually like 1, maybe 2 people going back in time. Like it'll be the main one character, or it'll be like 2, maybe 2. I think the normal like group is like usually 1 or 2. This is the whole Final Fantasy VII party. Like we get all, I believe, like, it's 8 people. What is it? It's Cloud, Tifa, Barrett, Yuffie, Vincent, Kate Sith, so Reeve, Red, 13, and I think that's it, because, you know, not Aerith, but the other 7, yeah, I think that's everybody. So it's them. Oh, Sid. Right, I forgot Sid. So yeah, Sid. So those 8, the 8 plus Denzel and Marlene from the Advent Children, the kids from Advent Children. So they all get sent back to a little bit before Crisis Core. Actually, not a little bit. Like Zack is not even Angeal's pupil yet. So like I think a year or 2 before Crisis Core. But they also get like de-age, and it's not weirdly, like they mark about it themselves, but it's inconsistent about how much they're all de-age. Like Denzel and Marlene stay their age from the future of like 10 or 13, but the other ones are like some are de-age more than others and things, but whatever. So it's a big cast in the group, and because of that, and that I guess allows them to like strategize how they're gonna fix Shinra or like fix the world and stuff, but it also feels like really too much strategizing, or like it feels, the story feels both slow and busy at the same time. Like it's slow to progress, or like it feels like not many things are getting done, but a lot of things are happening. I guess that's the thing where it's like, you know, they split up into like 3 teams. Each team is like working on to do something at a different location, and it goes into a bit of minutia. So you see a lot of the steps of their plan happening, but it takes a while for anything to actually get done. So it just feels weird. Like you basically just it's slow momentum wise of like the larger piece actually getting done. And that's just the main thing that was the problem for me, like the pacing. It's just, it's like that drags the story, and, you know, because this is just taking the story seriously and everything's there, there's not the payoffs again, as I said, like with serious story, the payoff is the narrative beats and the things that have to pay off. And because it's slow, it doesn't get a lot of that. Like there are some nice setups of like, we get like one or two fights with Angeal and Genesis, that are setting up for them to be like a more going after antagonist, and also they let some stuff about them dying due to the degradation, so they're starting to investigate that gets set up. Other things are happening, like they still are in the war with Wutai at this point, and things are going, so like there's things get set up there, like another terrorist, like a different attack happens, and like Rufus dies, and like that's a thing that can evolve later. But like all these things get set up and nothing gets completed with this incomplete story. And I just think like it's an okay story. I don't think it's bad, but it's not memorable in truly sense. Like nothing. It's not this again. The reason there's a different as I've always said, like this when I say falls like I take a story off my list or not. These are stories that I want to revisit or not just stories that I think are good. I think this is perfectly fine for a story, and if I came across it and I was following it when it came out, that's fine. But right now, and like going back and seeing, it's not a thing I would want to revisit and such. So it's going to fall off my list. But I still think it's an okay story, just not great or nothing super memorable in there. Next is Heroine for a Hobby by Rumble and the Dumbles. This is another Worm crossover, this time with One Punch Man. And this is basically a like kind of character rip where Taylor and Dragon are basically turned into Saitama and Genos. Like they act the same way in that, but are still in the rest of the world of Worm is still the rest of the world of Worm. It's okay. Like there's a small bit of fun with them, like at the first bit where they're recreating kind of like the Mosquito Woman fight with Lung as a replacement. And there's a fight with the Travelers that's entertaining, but overall the straightforward replacement doesn't really add much or offer much memorable, and it's unfinished, and like it's not really that funny or that's and I like there's some humor to it, but it's not as over the top or like a thing as or like it just a bunch of Worm's seriousness still gets injected into it and stuff. I just didn't have as much of a fun time as like you'd think it was with this. It's gonna fall off my list. Number 5 is Team 7's Hit List by Dazai-san. So this is just a short one shot where Team 7 from Naruto travel back in time, and they all meet up, and they're like, okay, let's just talk about who we gotta kill or beat up or ruin to protect the future, and they're just all talking out loud in the public open, and other people hear them and get concerned. So it's mildly amusing. It leads to like at the end, like people get concerned, and then they get called into a meeting with the Hokage, and then it like kind of like resolves itself. It's like maybe you'll get a chuckle or two from this. But even if you did, it'd probably just be a small one. Yeah, it's not that funny or even that great. Like I don't think it's great execution. It's gonna fall off my list. Number 6 is Immortal by Laughing LeFou. And now this is good crack. Like this is funny. This is a Ruby fic, again with Jaune as the main character, with a interesting semblance where instead of like anything else, he's immortal. Like he just cannot die. And this is just really, and I just had a lot of fun with this, where it's again, this is kind of like what I thought Telepathy would be, where all the characters here are again like pumped up to, like they're the other characters are all like pumped up to 11 in terms of like being parodies of themselves. Like Pyrrha is especially like kind of fun as it's like different from like almost all other portrayals I see of her, where here she's just taking all the praise she gets from everybody else and just now believes that she's a goddess herself and everything. And all the other characters like Blake's like obvious perversion is ramped up so much that like she didn't leave the White Fang for, you know, feeling that they were going to her. No, the White Fang kicked her out because they were so terrified of her perversions and stuff and everything. And like, it just all played up so ridiculously. And Jaune plays a great straight man for all this while just being so tired of the shit. I'm tired of like all the times like competing with like getting stabbed in the chest and being okay. Like, it's just really fun. He works as a great foil for all the insanity that's going on, and the actual like perverted like the humor is sexual and like the ideas are there, but it's not like graphic. It's just sexual in nature, but it's just more over the top ridiculous than graphic, and I just loved it a lot. So yeah, this is what I wish like Telepathy was, as if it continued, and I, even though it's like not even the same premise, I liked it a lot. Even though it's incomplete, it's a lot of fun. It's gonna stay on my list. Alright, and the last one for this video is Immortality in the Verse by Billie Jean 476. This is a Harry Potter Firefly crossover that it is complete, and it starts right after, like, basically it goes from like the end of the Harry Potter books, where Harry, you know, finds out that he's immortal because of the Master of Death stuff and that, and then he sees like the fall of Earth as everything gets, you know, destroyed, and then the Exodus, and goes on an arc and goes with the Alliance and such, and then eventually joins the Firefly crew for a few episodes of, you know, shenanigans, and with an ending that happens like just post the movie Serenity, and then ends with like as a thing of like to be like as they continue. And I'll admit, like, the pre-Firefly stuff really just bored me. All of the end of the world stuff, I was like, if this keeps going on and this is most of it, I'm definitely dropping it. This is all really tiring and boring and drags on. And that's like four of the 10 chapters. So that was really just irritating. Harry being with the crew, the Serenity crew, that's kind of fun. Like, we get like one thing, it's a series, it's basically just a series of cuts of the episodes, right? So like the first chapter after the fall of Earth is him meeting Wash, Harry and Wash meeting, and like them setting up that connection, and then afterwards he joins them during like I think three of like the episodes of the season. Like, we get to see how his thing works with them, and then the last one, like I said, is an original like oh hey, what would have happened after the movie, and they stumble across Harry again, and he at the end is like joins their crew again permanently. Harry meshes well enough with the cast. A lot, but it's a little annoying because like it kind of the vibes of the fic mesh well with the show, but the problem is it meshes well enough where it also has the problem of like there's so many unresolved or lingering plot threads that, unlike in the show, kept constantly getting brought up on stuff like the you know, we don't trust him, we don't know Harry, because like he doesn't explain his backstory or doesn't connect that much with the crew. He's more of just like an interperson that comes, and the real connection they have even throughout the entire story is just, oh, he's very competent as a thief and like a shot, and like he works well, but like the emotional connection between him and the others isn't really explored. And again, like they constantly bring up like, we don't know his past, we don't know this, we don't know that, like the reader stuff or anything. Like it's like it's all just unresolved, but it would have been less of a problem if they didn't keep talking about it and bringing it in your face that they haven't resolved this. So that mixed, like I said, if you want to find a Harry Potter Firefly thing, you could definitely find worse. But there's also better, and like I'm pretty sure I've had like one or two with this same premise of like Harry being immortal and then doing the Firefly crew stuff afterwards. Like I'm pretty sure I've had one of these, one or two of these on my list that I've liked better. But yeah, this, like, the latter half is, like, kind of more 7 out of 10-ish. And the first half, like I said, the pre-Firefly stuff, just kind of bored me. And so, overall, this is going to fall off my list. so there we go. Fanfiction status time. I've now read 1,167 stories, and 542 of them have managed to stay on my list. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. As always, I will leave links to the stories and playlists, the forum where I post this written. All these stuffs will be links in the description, all that stuff. And yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.